Welcome to another, I'm going to start again, Bruce. Welcome to another episode of 10 Words or Less, in which I ask brief questions of interesting people and ask for brief answers in return. I'm Michael Prager. I'm a speaker. I'm a life and well-being coach, and the author of 2 books, Fat Boy, Thin Man, and Sustainable You. This installment is part of a subset of 10 Words or Less interviews with speakers bringing their wisdom to NSA New England, where I'm the program chair this year. Today's guest is Bruce Turkel, who will be presenting March 11th in Waltham, Mass., and you're invited. On this blog post, the blog post that'll accompany this video, there will be details on how you can register for his event. Bruce is an authority on branding, having worked with Nike, American Express, Harvard, and done a TEDx talk, a distinction, finally, that I can share with him. You may have seen him on Fox Business Channel, where he appears regularly. But before we begin our chat, my usual guidance to you playing at home. 10 words is an attention, not a limit, so counting would be wrong. If you think it's so easy, let's see you do it, especially on the fly. Okay, Bruce, please spell your first and last name as you wish them to appear.
My first name is Bruce, B-R-U-C-E. My last name, T-U-R-K-E-L, Turkel.
Born when and where, please?
I was born on Miami Beach, Florida, 1957 in December.
Was there anything unusual about the circumstances of your birth?
Not that I remember, and I've never heard any stories that said so, so I don't think so.
Okay, so when you say on Miami Beach, that's figurative.
No, I was born on Miami Beach. Miami Beach is not just a sand beach, it's actually a city. And there's a hospital, Mount Sinai Hospital. I was born in the hospital on Miami Beach.
Got it. Okay. Where do you reside now?
I live in South Miami, maybe 35 minutes south of Miami Beach.
Have you lived any extensive part of your life outside of South Florida?
No, I went to University of Florida, so I spent a number of years there. That's still in Florida. And I did live in New York for just under a year right after I got out of college, but then I moved back to Miami.
Got it. Revealing as much as you're willing to, tell us about your family situation, please.
My family situation, I have a wonderful wife. She's a nurse practitioner and a hospice nurse. We've been married for 31 years. We have 2 children. Our daughter, Allie, is 22. Our son, Danny, is 28.
Awesome. Thank you. And what is your primary work?
My primary work is working with my clients, businesses, and some individuals on building their brand value. We help companies mostly make their products more valuable. And we work mostly, but not exclusively, in the travel and tourism, healthcare, and financial services industries.
And did you choose those industries or did they choose you?
That's a good question. We won the Miami tourism account a number of years ago. We turned Miami from what Time magazine called Paradise Lost to probably one of the top 5 tourist destination brands in the world. Because of that, other business came and we grew that. Healthcare, the same thing. We worked for a company called Medcare, Metropolitan Health Networks, which ultimately the CEO sold to Humana for $850 million. Because of our successes there, other healthcare companies look to us to help them build their brands.
Got it. Tell me, an early influence on you outside your immediate family.
Early influence that was probably most important to me was an artist by the name of Saul Steinberg.
Tell me a little more, please.
Saul Steinberg was an immigrant from Romania, came to the United States in the 20s, worked for a number of magazines and newspapers. He was obviously an artist. And his drawings, which I discovered in the Miami Beach Public Library, have been more influential on me, my art style, my design style, than anything I've ever seen since. I have all his books, all the first editions. I go through them frequently.
So when you say you discovered them in the library, were they on the walls or were you got turned on to his books or both or neither?
You know, they weren't on the walls. It was the books, although I'm not sure. He was a cartoonist for the New Yorker magazine, which my parents used to get at the house. So I might have seen them there first and then went and explored it, or I'm a book nerd. As a kid, I spent a lot of time in the art section at the library, and I might have found them there. But once I discovered them, they were all absorbing for me.
Got it. Thank you. What was your first paying job?
I worked at Junior's Tackle Shop on South Beach. We used to put gas in boats. We used to get shrimp and beer for the boaters. The Coast Guard base was across the bay. We used to help those guys with their boats.
Boy, I can just see that so clearly in my mind's eye, you being there. I don't know why. Tell me some wisdom you retain from your job that time.
It's funny. One of the things that I learned is that customers were more interested in effort than in results. If, for example, somebody said they were going fishing and they needed a couple dozen shrimp, if you spent time in the shrimp tank telling them, let me get you the good ones, the big ones, the lively ones, they were impressed by that. If you went to get somebody beer and you brought back beer and you said, by the way, I filled the bag with ice, they were impressed by that. They were getting the beer anyways. They were getting the shrimp anyways. And I think we would agree that when you're fishing, live shrimp are live shrimp. I don't think the fish eating the shrimp really cares. But the effort is what mattered to them.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. I find that useful. So when was the first time you spoke professionally?
I wrote an article for How Magazine. How Magazine is a design magazine. And they had a business annual, and I wrote an article for the business annual, not about how great my business was, but actually what happened my second year in business when we almost went out of business. And thanks to that article, they asked me if I would come speak at their convention, and I did. That was my first real gig, audience, payment, although a very small payment. In fact, I'm going to talk about this when I see your folks up in Waltham in next month.
Okay. How many times have you spoken?
Oh,
at
boy,
this point?
Thousands.
Really?
Yeah, really, because besides the big gigs with the big audiences, I do a lot of presentations for my clients where I present to their shareholders, I present to their employees, I present to their franchisees. So I do presentations 3 or 4 times a week.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Tell me a tip for speakers that you would share.
I will give you 2 tips if you don't mind. One of them is to stand still. If you watch speakers, you'll notice that they let their body language take over the stage. Women, and I don't mean to be sexist, but women tend to cross their ankles back and forth. Men tend to wander across the stage back and forth. If they would simply stand still, they would get a lot more attention. The second thing I would say is to tell your stories to the people in the audience. A lot of speakers have their outline, they have their PowerPoint, whatever they're using, and they're going through it no matter what. And I recommend you don't do that, but instead, just like I feel you and I are doing, you and I are having a conversation. I'm talking to you. I know there's other people watching or will be people watching, but the way that this is real for me is I'm talking to you.
Got it. It brings several more questions to mind, but let's move on. How did the Fox business gig start for you?
I got a text message one day that said, what do you know about the Google Facebook flap? Flap meaning to do, argument, whatever. And it was from a junior producer at Fox Business. So I wrote back, I'm in a meeting, can I contact you in 15 minutes? Which I did. And it turned out they had been receiving my blog. I write a blog post on branding issues, comes out every week. They had somehow been on my blog list. They thought I would know the answer for this particular issue. People ask me all the time, how can I get on television? And my answer is always the same. I can't tell you how to get on television. I can tell you how to get back on television. So that was the first one. Then it led to a lot more.
Excellent. Tell me, somebody you think is a particularly good interviewer. You don't have to say me. We'll just assume that you were going to.
You said that too quickly, Michael. I could have said Michael, and then you could have stopped me. I think Terry Gross.
I'll edit that, so that's how it appears.
Terry Gross on NPR, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Did you see the interview that Mark... I had his name right until I started saying it. The Mark Maron did with her in Brooklyn Sorry about that. News from ESPN. Did you see the interview that Mark Maron did with her where she was the subject?
No, but I just read his book. I just finished it. And so I would be very interested in seeing that. I didn't even know it existed. I'll go look it up.
Yeah, in the last year. Matter of fact, it was within 6 weeks of each other that Terry Gross asked that he be the one to interview her. And President Obama came to his garage where he does his interviews to do an hour with Mark. So that'll be his epitaph, perhaps. I don't know.
Says it.
All right. Someone who deserves more attention.
Someone who deserves more attention, and I think she's finally getting it, is Michelle Obama.
Okay, thank you. Give us a little more on that, please.
Sure. Michelle Obama has redefined what not only the First Lady position is all about, but what life in the White House is all about. No scandals, no issues, grace, class, a loving family. I know some people are watching and saying, oh my God, I love them. Other people are watching it, but how about whatever? We can get into politics, but that's not even what I'm talking about. She epitomizes and exemplifies what grace, what American grace looks like.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Someone who would do better with less attention.
I think our election just proved that.
All right. I don't need any more on that one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Something about you that would surprise people.
Let's see. There's a lot of things about me that would surprise people, but the number one thing is you can't tell because on this little screen you have no idea how tall I am, but I'm a terrible basketball player. The reason that surprises people is because I'm 6'5", so.
And did you never desire to play just because you were tall, or did you try to play and find out that was never going to happen, or were you wonderfully successful and then you just turned away from it to devote your life to art?
I think the technical term and trying to live up to your less than 10 words was, I suck at it.
Got it. Got it. Something about people that surprises you.
I'm always surprised how easily people are willing to give up their values for something they want.
Thank you. What's the silliest thing you've heard recently?
Should I go back to the election again? I don't even know where to start.
They're open-ended questions. You get to decide.
I don't know where to start. One of the things that our president-elect has said out loud.
Which one?
There's so many. I don't even know which one. You said silliest. I don't even know where to start.
Fair enough. Why are you coming to New England from South Florida in early March for a little more than expenses and the satisfaction?
I'm coming because you asked me. More than that, I'm coming because I enjoy speaking to speaking groups. I think I have something to share based on what I've done in the business. And I think that a lot of people who aspire to be speakers and have something worth saying never stop and think about the rest of the things they need to do and plan for. And so, as I mentioned to you earlier, I've spoken at a lot of chapters because I think I can be helpful. I'm certainly not coming for the cold weather.
I know, if I recall correctly, I offered you 3 separate ones and you chose the warmest one.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you in a position yet to say something specific that attendees will learn?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to talk specifically about how to build your brand around what you're going to be doing on stage, and then how to take the most advantage of that from a business point of view. As I see it, and at the work we do with our clients, when you build a brand that's congruent, compelling, and powerful, everything else flows out of it. How many times have we heard speakers say, oh, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what subject. I'm going to show how to fix that. And the other thing is, here's my little provocative one. I'm going to try to convince the people in my audience, in your audience, not to market themselves as speakers in order to be speakers.
Okay. Now, actually, one of the questions we have left is your email marketing is very hooky, and that's my evaluation of it. I hope that's all right. What you just said had quite a bit of a hook too. Should I wait to hear what they should market themselves as instead, or would you like to tell us now?
Why don't you ask me?
What should we market ourselves as, if not as speakers?
If you'd like to hear that, Michael, you should come see my presentation in Waltham, Mass.
Well, I'll be there. I can guarantee that. I will say I'll just throw in a little well, endorsement, I guess. I have seen Bruce present. I saw him present on the main stage, I think, in San Diego. Is that correct, Bruce? And right after the next round of breakout sessions were going, and I ran to the room that he was going to be in because I wanted to hear more about him, and I got to sit in the front row, and I was right to run because the room was packed and they had to shut off access to people who were less proactive about it. So I am very excited. It's one of the best things I've done as program chair is to bring Bruce to come and share with us.
Thank you.
One of the things you say is, forget mindfulness, try never mindfulness. What does that mean?
Well, you remember I said to you a moment ago that one of the things I would tell speakers is tell a story to the person sitting in the audience, maybe you in the front row at that workshop or people in the room or what you and I are doing now. Well, as I see it, this whole idea of mindfulness, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of the breath in your body, being aware of your feet on the floor and your butt in the chair and all of that is all well and good. But when you're up on stage, when you're marketing yourself, when you're building a brand, it's not about you. One of the things we're going to talk about is that your brand is not about you. So stop thinking of yourself, stop being mindful, and instead be never mindful.
I get it. Another way I did not get it, it wasn't a softball, so that you could tell us that. I didn't get what you meant, but I expressed that as I want to be present until I disappear. So that it's not about me, it's all about who I'm talking to and who I'm listening to.
I mean, let me give a shameless plug. The title of my latest book is all about them. If you want to, it says grow your business by focusing on others. It's not about blah, blah, blah about me. It's about blah, blah, blah about you.
Yeah, I get that. There is an opportunity for you to tell us where to buy that coming up in just a minute. So, as I said, I find your email marketing, which I'll describe for people, is usually one paragraph, and it's always got this hook that says, and if you want to read more, go to my website. It's definitely a technique. Tell us about your method on how to create that.
Well, the first thing is I tend to write about what I'm seeing going on in the world. I have this asset, I suppose, where I look at things differently than a lot of people that I know. Because of my background, the art, the music, the branding, whatever, I see things slightly different. So my goal is to say to people, did you see what just happened? I do this is what I do on television. Did you see what just happened? I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. Did you see what he just did? Did you see what she just did? What can you learn from that? And so I try to set these things up that way. You know this, you saw this, right? Well, what's in it for you? Now, of course, that's where the big page, the metaphorical page jump is, right? Because if you want to know more, then come into my world. I don't sell anything there. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to get you to come and spend more time in my head, because I think there's a lot of value if people would stop and say, why did that happen? Why did I buy that? Why did I go that way? Why did I vote that way? Why did I think that way? But we don't do that. If we did, I think we would see some techniques that we could use to get what we want.
I think that's true. Did you personally come up with the tagline, Coconut Grove, get laid back?
I did.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
That's a good one. A friend of mine talks about, we were both journalists, and we'd write stories 500 words, 1,000 words, or much longer, depending on the situation. And she was talking about how the premium on writers gets higher as the number of words available gets smaller, such as drivers wanted was the example she used. And that writer only came up with 2 words. Now, of course, we know the writer considered a great many more than 2 words before coming up with those 2. But well, what is the secret to pithiness?
Well, I will tell you, based on your 2 drivers wanted words, I think 3 of the most valuable words that somebody wrote was rinse, lather, repeat. And
Oh, yeah.
they only wrote one word, repeat. We already knew about rinsing and lathering. The idea is to understand who your customer is, your reader, your consumer, your target, your audience, whatever. Understand what they care about that, of course, your product or service can provide, and then remove everything else. The idea is to work on pithiness. You were nice enough to say that my posts are hooky. I might spend half an hour writing a 2-page post. I might spend 2 or 3 days writing the headline. It's much harder. We all know the line, pardon my long letter, if I had had more time, I would have written a shorter. We all know about Rodin saying he was going to carve a lion by removing everything that didn't look like a lion. That's really, truly what it's about.
Is there something you'd like to promote to people watching this video?
I would love for them to buy this book. My goal with this book is to get it on the New York Times bestseller list. And the only way that's going to happen is if lots of people buy it. And if they do buy it, and if they read it, I would love for them to post a review of it on Amazon.
Got it. Got it. And it's really convenient that you had the book right there. You mentioned earlier you hadn't yet put anything on the walls, but you did happen to have a copy of the book there.
I have a copy of the last book here too. And if I got up and went over to my bookshelf, I have the other 4. But right now I'm focused on the new one.
Got it. How long has it been out?
It came out in October.
Excellent. So tell me, what is something I should have asked you?
You should have asked me the one most important thing I'm going to talk about when I come up to speak to your folks.
Great. Tell me what that is.
I will tell you when I come up to speak to your folks. Come on, Michael.
That is not how this works. No.
It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
All right, then. What should I have asked you that you're willing to tell me now?
I think you've done a great job, actually. I think you probably should have asked me why I think Terry Gross is a better interviewer than you, because I think you've done a terrific job.
Well, thank you. I would never ask that question. I ask questions where I don't know the answer. And I know I've listened to her enough times. I know why she's better, and I admire her greatly. All right. Tell me something you wish everybody would just get right.
Everybody would do what?
Just get right.
Oh, using turn signals.
Excellent. Excellent. I got it. That's a very simple one. Because it might be of particular interest to you, everybody else, you can stop watching now because I've told this story before. But the first time I asked that question, I've asked that question 200 times, almost always at the end of interviews like this. The first time I did it, it was to, again, names escape me. He's the guy who did I Heart New York.
Milton Glaser.
Milton Glaser. First guy. And his answer was the cooking time for pasta. And I just, that's why I kept asking the question, because that was, I'm trying to beat that one.
That's a good one.
But yours is very good. It was on your mind. You knew, you had your chance and you've told the world, use your turn signals.
It's not that much to ask.
No, I agree. It is not. All right, Bruce. No, I think we've covered everything. Thank you so much for spending this time together. I intend to, stick around a little bit after, and let's just conclude it here. Thank you. I enjoyed it quite a bit and feel fortunate that we were able to spend the time. And best wishes until we see you on March 11th.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate the invitation, and thank you all for watching.
Okay, great.